Good afternoon, everybody, to another episode of Words Have Meanings. Today, I am honored to have Lieutenant Colonel Bernard House. I think, aka Bernie. Is that what they call you, sir?
That's correct. Yeah, I go by Bernie too.
Oh, okay. So, sir, thanks again for taking the time out of your 4 day to join us today. And today's topic is a very near and dear topic to you, and I'm pretty sure to a lot of people. And the reason I thought it was important to reach out to you after I read the article you wrote and then listened to a quick video that Sergeant Major Bladesdell had put up, it was like, you get it. He gets it, right?
First, I want to thank you, Sergeant Major, for reaching out and giving me this opportunity to speak on it, because this is, it's a subject that's very near and dear and personal to me. So I'm going to be as transparent as possible, during our question and answer here. But why was it important for me to be in uniform? So let me back it up a little bit and just kind of set the stage. So when I first realized that I needed to sit down and talk to somebody, I went to the behavioral health treatment facility here in Kentucky, and I was in uniform. And I remember sitting in the lobby, and I kind of slumped over a little bit in the seat so nobody can see, what rank I was. I sat off in the corner because I didn't want people to see what rank I was. And finally, once I got in and did the question, and I got back there to talk to the therapist, I think they realized I was kind of uncomfortable being in my uniform and being seen, because it's a facility that treat younger soldiers also. So they gave me the opportunity to change into civilian clothes. From that point, I actually, I did 5 days in an inpatient treatment facility. And what I learned, and I actually wrote the article that you read while I was in there. It's actually part of a larger journal that I kept. But over my course of my time there, I never used my rank. I never told any of the soldiers in my rank. None of the members of the team there revealed my rank. But at the end, you're sitting there in the group session and you kind of talking, you kind of sharing, and I'm getting ready to leave after my 5 days. Some of our soldiers are still being there. One of the common themes they were talking about was the stigma attached to them being there getting help. They thought immediately up on getting out, they were going to get chaptered. They were going to be teased for being weak. Leadership didn't care. So at that moment, I kind of spoke up and I was like, hey, this is who I am. And it's kind of where I want to introduce myself now. Yeah, like you said, Lieutenant Colonel Bernard House, I go by Bernie. I'm a field artillery officer, 22 years in the military, former battalion commander, and I have sought behavioral health treatment, and I'm still currently getting behavioral health treatment to a therapist. I used to be ashamed of it. I used to be embarrassed about it. Now I'm not. So it was important for me today to sit here in uniform, and so people, when they watch this, they can see, hey, this Lieutenant Colonel's in uniform. He's not ashamed of the fact that he got treatment, and he's doing better. I'm doing better because of the decision I make to walk through that door. So that's why it was important for me to be in my uniform today.
We need to get to the point where we can talk about our behavioral health more openly. And what I mean by that, it's like, hey, we can talk about going to the gym, right? You can talk to your buddy like, hey, I just went to the gym, X, Y, and Z. We need to be able to talk the same about when it comes to behavioral health. Hey, I went to saw my therapist today. It was a pretty good session.
Right. You're absolutely right. And, again, it's one of the reasons that actually drove me to pick pieces out of my journal and put that article together, because as I was still going to my therapist, but as I was talking to more and more, junior officers, junior leaders and stuff, hearing the things they were going to, I felt necessary to come forward and share and say, hey, it's okay. We all have life problems. And the thing is, not all behavioral health issues are linked to combat. So I felt it was important to say, hey, these are life experiences that happened to me that drove me to this point, and I'm getting the help that I need. And, I'm not a weak leader. I'm not a failure. My unit's not kicking me out. My leaders are not, harassing me or anything. It's okay to get help.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, so I'm gonna tell a little story, Sergeant Major, just to kind of paint the picture. So I'm the youngest of five, and although my brothers have, there's only five sons, no daughters. Although my brothers have, very good careers, uh, none of them went to college. So it was always my mother and father's dream that one of their children go to college. So that was me as the youngest. And then I'm the only one that's in the military. My father was a Vietnam vet. So again, that's two amounts of stress on me coming in 22 years ago. So, but that also kind of grounded the way I kind of, see my life. My faith is the foundation. And then as you look at it, as I look at it, the three pillars, coming off of the faith, and that's myself, my career, and then my family. And then on top of all that is the goals that I want to achieve within the military. Over the course of the years, there are certain things, the way I see it is that they kind of chip away at those pillars in my life. Whether it was deployments or unaccompanied tours that caused me to miss, anniversaries, birthdays, my kids' first steps, first words, all that stuff kind of chipped away at, deaths. My father died in 2006 while I was in Iraq. My one of my brothers had a serious stroke. He's in pretty grave conditions right now. But because of where I was at in the military, I just kept driving on, and I just kind of suppressed that stuff. So that's why I say it kind of chipped away at those three pillars. But it was one of those things I kind of suppressed, and I never got help for. So I continue to drive on, and you continue to you have success in the military. So I had my my fallback was my military career. I was climbing the ladder. I was doing good. I was getting those critical jobs, and then I hit battalion command, which was great. Lieutenant Colonel battalion command. That's what you kind of want to go for. So things are good. I take the battalion. We're in Iraq, and I get a phone call. 2015. One of my best friends had committed suicide, and that's another chip at me. But I'm in a combat zone, so you just got to kind of suck it up. But then you take the time to wonder, like, how did he get to the point where he committed suicide? And oh, by the way, I had just talked to him probably a week prior, and you search in your mind, like, what did I miss? But again, it's one of those things you kind of I'm gonna say kind of that I suppressed, and I kept driving on with the mission, and you kind of go from there. But still, I'm seeing all these little dings now that I'm going through therapy, and I'm going back and talking about it. I see all these little dings in my pillars of life. So then I think the crack for me, and I'll say it's a crack, and then I'll go on and talk about the collapse. But the crack for me was receiving my first evaluation out of battalion command. And to some that might seem minor, but to me it was a major event. It wasn't that I was getting relieved from command. It wasn't a slam dunk get out of the army type of vow, but it wasn't what I normally received. And I knew, based on statistics and stuff, this evaluation closes certain doors for me. And that was critical. I mean, all I wanted to be all of my life was in the military. So that was a critical hit for me. And I still remember it because it happened on a Friday. And once I read it, because it came in an email, it wasn't a sit down session to talk about it, came in an email. I just kind of closed my computer and I went home, and I moped that whole weekend. But again, I had to suppress it because I still had to go back and be the commander, for those 600 plus soldiers that were in the battalion. So I took the weekend. I moped around the house. I kind of isolated myself even from my family. And then I put on a smile on Monday, and I went to PT. And, you drove on. Next year went okay. I ended up going to Korea after battalion command. So, decisions made that based on where schooling and jobs and stuff for my family, that I would go alone, which again, you see another chip, because now I'm away from my family again, watching my kids grow up on a computer. And we get to the '06 selection board. Okay. So for the first time in my Army career, my name didn't appear on a promotion list. That was the collapse for me. Okay. So I was in Korea, I was alone, and in my mind, I had a major failure at that point in my life. And I still remember, when the colonel notified me, hey, you're going to be a non-select for this year's promotion board. I, again, internally, I suppressed it. Roger, sir, that's the way the board goes. That's the way it's going to happen. And I moved on out. But that weekend, I went back to my apartment, And it's almost like, it's like a grown man. You can't, you don't show emotions, but literally, I sat down on my couch and, tears are flowing. I'm wondering, I spent 22 years, I did everything that the Army asked, but I'm not good enough to go to the next level, and I didn't have my family there. So I didn't have a support base. And then I started to doubt, almost everything. It started hitting myself, my confidence. And I grew more isolated, where I used to be the guy who walked them down the hallway talking to people all the time. I spent more time in my office. So, that was my collapse. But at that point, I still didn't seek treatment, even though I felt the need that I needed to talk to somebody. I kind of just pulled back within myself. And, it was limited phone calls at that point to my family. So, it was pressure on the family because everybody was wondering, hey, what's going on with him? He's not talking to me. So I get back here. I come to Knox and I get my assignment here and I start to work. And even though the leadership here is was 100% great working environment, great people that I was working with, I was still battling in my mind the epic failure that I had by not getting selected. And even though nobody ever said anything derogatory toward me, to me everybody was looking like, wow, this guy's this year group, he should be promotable by now. He's not. So in my mind, I had formulated that people were talking about me, and then I was still questioning almost every judgment that I made, that I was making. So it just got to a point, and then you factor in there, this is a 24/7 thing. My mind was going 24/7 with this stuff. So I was sleeping, maybe 3 to 4 hours per night. So I was tired. My motivation was gone. Whereas I was a person who was, walking to work when I was in Korea, when I could, I would go do PT every morning. If I didn't get 10,000 steps during the daytime, something was wrong. That motivation left. I didn't have any motivation to kind of do anything. So it just got to the point where, and then, I'll say I was out of my character. And what I mean by that, where I was usually, talking to my wife, my spouse, my kids, and interacting with them and doing things. No, I was such a depression mode that, even if they say, hey, you want to go here, the answer was no. Talking to my mother every day on the phone, which was something that she was so used to. She maybe got to talk to me once a week. Communication with my brother, which I did quite often, was rarely existent. And everybody was wondering, what's going on, because I was totally I was acting out of my character. And it just got to the point where I was like, okay, I got to get some help. And this was a week-long conversation with myself, to saying, I got to talk to somebody, but I don't know who I can talk to. Because again, then this is where the fear comes in. I say, if I go to the Army Behavioral Health, this is going to be reported back to my chain of command. I'm definitely not going to have any shots at any kind of good job. My security clearance is in jeopardy. My leadership is going to look at me different. My peers, the subordinates, going to look at me as a weak leader. I can't do it. So for a week, I was wondering, what do I do? And I said it in the paper. The hardest thing I did was to drive to the facility and to get out of my vehicle and walk in there and say, hey, I need to talk to somebody. And I did it in this uniform. And, they made the determination that I need to stay there, and I got the treatment. So I will say it's a personal courage thing that I had to overcome, just to say I have had this collapse in my life, and I have to get professional help because I cannot defeat the battle that's going on within my mind.
Sometimes I think pride gets in our way, and it does take a lot of personal courage to get over that pride. What I want to do is for somebody to watch this and walk away with, like, what, it really is okay to go get help. So
So with this one, I'm going to say it's kind of a yes and a no, and here's the reason why I'll explain. So if we go back to Korea when this happened with the promotion board, my leader there, he noticed immediately a change in my behavior, and it was almost every day he would come to my office and like, hey, are you okay? You're not yourself, and are you okay? You need talk. or anything like that. But again, you're right. It's a pride thing where I would look at them and say, "Hey, sir, I'm fine. I got it. You know, it's a board is a board. They vote for the best qualified. We just got to drive on and do what we do." You know, but deep down inside, you know, I was hurting. But he noticed that. So here's the thing. I think that we got to understand. You know, even as me as a field artillery officer, I'm going to check on my soldier. I'm going to get to know my soldier. I'm going to ask them, are they okay? And then when they go to sharing stuff with me, uh, I don't think we're trained to be a behavioral health specialist, a therapist. Okay. Yes, I want to listen to you. Yes, I want to let you get it out. But going through therapy, I know that you know these individuals, in which I will applaud the military, medical service, you know, behavioral health team because we got some of the best, and they know their job and they're specialized in this. So I think at that point where we identify, you know, Lieutenant Colonel House needs to talk to somebody, it's at that point that we know where to take the individual to get the help that they need. So if anything, I think that might be the educational piece that some of the leaders need to know. I know we talk about it a lot. Hey, you know, get out, you know, go see your behavioral health stuff. But if we educate ourselves a little bit more on actually what it takes, those facilities are, you know, what it's going to take to get that person either to inpatient or outpatient kind of treatment stuff, you can have that conversation with them to kind of ease their mind a little bit, and you know, lessen the fear for say, and then help them get into the treatment. And one other thing I'll add to this is because our natural tendency when we hear people kind of going through things is to you know give them a pat on the back, a compliment, like, hey, you know, Bernie, you did a good job in command. You know, you did a great job in battalion command. The soldiers really respect you. So that's the natural tendency as you know you're sharing what's hurting you is to come back with a compliment. For me, the compliments made it worse. So you know, that's why I think you got to get them to a specialist who's kind of trained on how to actually dissect things and give them the help that they need. Because as people will come to me like, hey, you know, I know you're a great leader and you're invested in mentorship and you know you're always helping the soldier and soldier. That just made it worse for me because at that point I felt like even more of a failure because now you telling me I did this good job and all these people are looking up to me and I have failed.
Wow.
So the pats on the back wasn't bringing me out of my depression and anxiety and all that stuff. That wasn't helping. So that's why I say, you know, as a yes, I think our leaders do a good job of paying attention, and you know, some of them they notice a change in behavior, but we are not trained specialists. We gotta take people to the next step and get them the treatment that they need.
Yeah, sir.
And I don't. I think our leaders do not lack emotional intelligence. I think you know we do a very good job of uh, especially relating with the soldiers, interacting with the soldiers, identifying stuff going on with the soldiers, and know their feelings and everything. I think you know op tempo over time has gotten us away from having a dedicated time to sit down and do one-on-one sessions with soldiers. You know, and I say soldiers, I'm talking about regardless of rank, whether you're E1 or O10. You know, sitting down, getting to know who they are, about their families. You know, just letting them talk, and they can tell you, you know, where they grew up at, and you can kind of see things that's going on in their neighborhoods. And then you can kind of piece together some of the stressors that they got going on in life, which will then guide you to better understand what kind of help they might need. And you know, I remember back in the day when I first came in, you know, we used to do the payday activities. You know, yeah, you used to have to put on your uniform, but the best part of the payday activity was the one-on-one counseling. That was your time to sit down and kind of talk with your leaders. You're building your leaders book, so you got their family information, you got their kids information, their you know home records and all that stuff, and you can just kind of start a dialogue. I think we just need to go back and you know re-energize those type things, and I think the Sergeant Major Army is doing a really good job in that with that now. As you know, he's putting out messages, and we got the Get to Know Your Squad initiative where leaders are actually sitting down and talking with soldiers, because the real thing is we have to show our soldiers that we are human also. And I think I said this up front, but I kind of reiterate, you know, all behavioral health issues don't stem from combat. They can just stem from common everyday life stressors, or something that happens within their military stuff, which is mine was everyday life stressor compounded with items that were happening along with my career, and that led me to having to get some treatment. I've been on combat deployments, and I understand it, but that wasn't a factor in what happened. So I think the more we can sit down and dialogue, show our soldiers that we're human, the better off that we'll be. We can listen to their stories also.
So through what you just described, we're able to build trust with our subordinates, peers, leaders or whatever. This way, when it does come time to them needing to tell us something, we've already built that trust with them, right? And it's
Right.
genuine trust. It's not just we're just going through checking the block, right? We're actually genuinely asking them questions about themselves, stuff that they shared with us, stuff that they
Mhm.
shared about their, maybe it was their daughter's birthday and you remember that, right? And
Right.
that right there builds trust because they know that you're present, not just you're not just there, but you're actually present with them and you're listening to them, which I think is huge
Mhm.
moving forward, especially with mental health, being able to know that hey, I can trust my leader. He actually listens to me and he cares.
Yep.
So yeah,
And that's
and
right. And I agree. So that's why, when I saw the Sergeant Major's video that he made, he kind of talked about some of the things that he went through. I said, that's exactly right example that we have to do. Because if we're talking about it and they're saying, okay, the Lieutenant Colonel House is a human just like us. He has life stressors just like us. He overcame the fear and went and got help. And, I'll be honest, I'm better because of that decision, to go into that facility, get the help, go talk to my therapist. I'm better. So that's the thing we got to show our soldiers, that it's okay and you can get better by doing it.
totally.
So I never got anything derogatory said to me about from anybody. But again, my mind was playing that because people knew my status and people knew where I should have been, that they were saying, they were talking just behind my back and went saying that that's probably not true. That's probably just the internal battle I was having with myself. Another thing that was happening to me as I got through this kind of period where I was isolating myself, and then I started to, I'm gonna say reach out, but it was like limited people that I would send a text to, a call or an IM or something like that. If that individual didn't respond back to me, it had a negative effect. And I'm like, okay, now I've been voted off of the island because of, I'm getting behavioral health treatment, or, at that time I wasn't, or because I didn't make it to the next level, I'm a failure. Now nobody wants to talk to me. So that was having the negative effect, and it was just compounding on everything else that I was kind of dealing with on the inside. So I think it's a matter of again, I keep saying it's just a matter of an internal battle with your mind that I couldn't defeat by myself. I knew I had to have the help to actually defeat it. Wrote down some points, so you might see me looking down, but I want to make sure I cover everything. So I kind of talked about the battle within yourself. It is definitely difficult to battle stuff internally. To battle the thoughts in your mind. Uh, I was dealing with, and I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. This is from not being selected. This is from having to go and get treatment. All of this stuff was just going on me. It was eating away at me, where I just couldn't think clearly and I couldn't sleep. I say that to say you can't suffer with this. You just got to reach down and grab that personal courage and go seek the treatment. So I would encourage anybody. And this is why I'm here. I wrote the paper, but I haven't talked openly about what led up to my treatment in any kind of form. But this is why it's important to share the story so people will see. And as I talk to others, off video, I could see there are other people that were going through the same thing I was. And then it was easy for me to say, hey, stop battling it yourself and go get help. So then that's my number two bullet. Our behavioral health system in the Army, in the military, is comprised of some of the best civilians and military personnel, I think in the world. They are very professional. They're going to treat you with dignity and respect, and they're very confidential. It took me a month, I'm going to therapy every week at this time. It took me a month to be open, honest, and truthful with my therapist. And she knew this, she was trained for this. I was worried about what she was recording. I was worried about what she was going to report back to my chain of command. But once we built that trust and I knew where things were going and I knew that she was actually building a plan to help me, not to hurt me, at that point it became easy. We were having, an hour session would easily turn into an hour and a half. And it was just helpful to get stuff out. She would listen and give feedback. So trust our behavioral health system, trust our behavioral health personnel, go see them, don't suffer in silence. That's what they kind of there for. Leaders, I'll tell you, it's kind of like, PT. We always talk about PT because it's important to us. Just as important as it is to see a leader at PT in the morning time in uniform, it's just as important for our soldiers to see us in uniform going to get help if we need it. I'll sit in the treatment facility and while I'm waiting, I talk to the soldiers there. How you doing? You doing okay? I pat them on the back for going to get treatment. Hey, it's good you get treatment. Be open and honest with your therapist, and they're going to help you out. So we have to be transparent. We have to, if we're going through something and we can share it. I know some things are really, really personal. You might not want to share it, but if you can share it. So we can educate our soldiers, remove the stigma, and help them to get out and get the treatment that you want. Talk to your soldiers. And I guess this is, whether if you're put into a leadership position, talk to your soldiers. You got to sit down and you got to have, the human conversations for say, what are you talking about? A football game, what they did on the weekend, anything like that. Just kind of talk to them to break the ice, and then you're going to see what's going on in their life. The big thing now, I will tell you, want an icebreaker, ask a person where they're from in the States. When you hear they from, you're from Arkansas, you can start a whole dialogue from there, just kind of talking on it. You can kind of get a feel for how their background is and kind of the things they're going to. Because some of our soldiers, like I talk about life stresses, you think about it, some of our soldiers are taking on their siblings as dependents or, ill parents or something that adds a whole nother level of stress. So once you understand that, you can kind of check on them and you can kind of educate them on opportunities and stuff that they might be able to help them out with the situation that they're in. Counseling. Okay. I don't, regardless of rank, and I heard people say, I know time is a factor for some of the senior leaders, but sit down and do an initial counseling, do the quarterly counseling, do your evaluation counseling with your leaders, with your soldiers. It might seem like a minor thing, but it is critically important to some people. And I'm gonna speak for myself. It's critically important for a person like me who is dedicated career soldier. This is what I wanted to do. So I want to know if I'm off azimuth. So I don't need to find it. Finding out at the end is the most hurtful part. If you tell me along the way, I can correct it. So, it's already in place. It's in the regulation. We're supposed to do counseling. I think we just need to enforce it, that we're actually sitting down doing the counseling. Don't be ashamed. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be scared. I can assure you, going in there, getting treatment is going to make you a better person, a better leader, a better soldier. So if you need the help, go get it. And then I'll just wrap it up again with another shout out to our military, our medical personnel and behavioral health team. Absolutely great professionals, very supportive. And, I'm here today, able to interact with my friends and be more of myself now because of those individuals. And last point here is how do I know, my treatment is helping me out? And it took my brother to say this, one time. It was just like, hey, I'm so happy I got my baby brother back. And to me, it was like, I haven't been anywhere. What are you talking about? He's like, no, when you came back and the things you were going, you were totally different. He said, now, you're slowly getting back into your character. And I feel like I got my brother back. So the treatment is it's not, it's a process. So you're not going to walk in there and talk to somebody and just get better overnight. But you got to walk in there, you got to dedicate the time, you got to be open and honest, and you go and you follow the plan, and I promise you, you're gonna be better over time. Absolutely, Sergeant Major. Hey, thank you for this opportunity to share it.
Of course, sir. When I saw read your paper, I knew I had to reach out to you because, like I said, this is something very important that I think needs to be talked about more from actually senior leaders going to see help, besides just being on a platform saying go see help, right?
Right.
And once they can see that, they can relate to our senior leaders go see help. It'll help them think and feel like it's okay to go see help because they can see you doing the same thing, sir. So